I don't think there's any one way to strike the proper balance. I think getting a balance means having a lot of different components in solving the shortcomings of our food system. Many people are interested in a vegan lifestyle, and that's fantastic. I think that scientists have a role to play in addressing their needs, and hopefully, once again, you'll enjoy these vegan meringues. But that's not going to be for everybody. And there's a lot of people who understand that meat has a really huge impact on our environment, that it requires about 7 kilograms of feed to grow 1 kilogram of beef, and that they would want to find ways to overcome those problems. But while some may choose just to shift to a completely plant-based diet and just enjoy eating produce as it comes straight from the farmer's market, there's other people who, gosh darn it, just really love their burgers and who love their bacon. And it's, I think, crucial to find good options for those people as well. So this is an opportunity then to create businesses that can meet that demand, find ways to create new foods that are composed of plants, but satisfy the same drives that we have for eating a burger. And so a bunch of companies now have been developed to address these sorts of goals. This is not something futuristic or that we're facing in the future. Actually, there was about somewhere between $5 and $6 billion invested in this sector in the last year. Many of the people who are participating, as you mentioned, are coming from the biotech or high-tech sector, and they're now developing this same notion of disruptive technology as it can be applied to the food system. Some of it is extremely simplistic and stripped down, just identifying the types of molecules that we need to sustain us on a nutritional level and putting that in a bottle, slapping a label like Soylent onto it, and you can enjoy it or not, but it probably will sustain you. Ultimately, though, I think that if we're going to develop something that's going to have an impact, people have to enjoy it. They can't be told that it's the right thing to do unless they find it satisfying. And that's where issues of taste and flavor really come front and center. So scientists, people from technology, they're not going to solve these problems on their own. We need to work with food experts. We need to work with chefs and find ways to make these new foods satisfying. For me, as a chemist, I really enjoy asking this question of what's in our food at the molecular level and using that knowledge to solve problems. One example is we had our attention called to an ingredient called salep that comes from Turkey that's used to make a really thick, delicious milk beverage. It's a thickening agent, and the ingredient comes from the tubers of an orchid that grows in the Turkish mountainsides. And it's also used to create a stretchy kind of ice cream. And the problem is that these orchids are becoming endangered. So we began to take a look at this and ask, what is in this at the molecular level? We identified a long-chain polysaccharide and said, is there a more sustainable source of this ingredient? And it turns out that konjac, which is another tuber that's common and used in Japanese cooking to make shirataki noodles, also contains the same molecule. So we were able to introduce this as a sustainable replacement for the salep, and we've now introduced this stretchy ice cream that has this dietary fiber that has a bunch of health benefits and is not going to cause environmental problems in Turkey. We also were really interested in finding ways at the molecular level to solve issues that have come up for vegans, and part of that is finding a good replacement for egg whites. So we had our attention called to another ingredient that comes from the Middle East, which is the extract of a plant called the soapwort plant that's used to create a frothy dessert topping. And we took a look at that, identified the active molecule, the important molecule is the saponin, and realized that we could take that foam and bake it into a meringue. We've applied for a patent on that, and I think it's a really interesting way to address these issues. Like, vegans want replacement for egg whites. And so we can do that. Within the past couple of years now, there's this whole interest in something called aquafaba, which is a very similar kind of froth that comes from the juice of canned chickpeas. And you can take that juice, pour it out of the can, froth it up, add sugar, bake it, and that creates a fantastic meringue. And that's what I've baked for you, and that's what you're going to be able to try. I hope you like it. But it just brings up this issue that we actually don't know what's in chickpea juice. We don't know what the critical component is, and I think there's an opportunity for chemists and chefs to get together, figure out what is it, how can we make it better, and how can we use it to create ingredients that vegans can use.